Hey guys, I'm Scott Brown, the developer for the game Worldstone Chronicles, and this is my 28th devlog. Now in this devlog, I just want to go over all the different things that I've been working on lately. It's kind of a big scattered mess, but lots of little tiny things that I've been working on, plenty of quests that I've added, there's quite a bit of polish happening. What I really was working on too was ironing out the demo because I was planning on putting it on Steam Next Fest, but I just don't think it was ready for it, so I did bail out and I plan on doing it for the next term. I think that one is in October. Now talking about polish, I went and fixed up this town invasion here, which I believe I've spoken about before in one of my other devlogs. It did need a little bit of fixing up. There were some NPCs kind of just doing nothing, so I made them actually start attacking and deal damage. Even the enemies, they all came in one big swarm, which was quite dangerous, and it was killing me more often than not. So I did separate it, make it into a wave format, and I thought that worked out a lot better. Now, I've got a problem here, and it's probably something that if I could dial back time, I'd tell myself, let's do it a lot differently, but I'm in this position where I've made this game, and we've got to basically get the user all the way up to the topmost right X there. That basically opens the game up into a giant sandbox where you can kind of do your own things. Now, in order to prevent the user from exploring the game in that sandbox manner before you get here, I have had to create all these different ways of preventing you from going there. I don't really like the fact that I had to do that, but there's just no other way I could really think of doing this sort of thing. So I've created barriers where you can't go beyond and exit certain zones, just because if you could, you would start acquiring ingredients and beyond the quest allowing you to do it, right? Once you get that topmost X, you're basically on this giant adventure to explore the whole world and assemble a whole bunch of ingredients together to fashion something up. Now, this area here at the top left, the big red line that I'm drawing, that is basically an exit to this zone, and I've created it where it's so high level that you can't get past there, and that is like a level 25 and beyond zone all the way up. Everything to the south is a little bit lower leveled, so I created just literally guard walls where the guards are like, you can't venture any further, to prevent you from going any further and progressing the main quest line. Once you do get that main quest line, they all just disappear and they're not there anymore, so now you can go beyond those zone walls. I don't know if I really like the idea, but I did make some sandbox experience here where you could take little pathways to that main quest line that you're trying to get to. You could still take different paths, and I did sprinkle in some little tiny side quests as well. Like you could go deep into some mines, kill some goblins, help some people out in the main city. There's a completely different set of paths. You could skip this entire town in the bottom right corner and just go right around it. Those are for some people who really want to fast track things. In the end, you can still go back to the main town and do those quests later on. So there's lots of stuff to do differently. I just didn't have the capability in me to explore the entire world yet. So hopefully that doesn't make the game confusing for people. Now, I went and added a whole bunch of stuff around the zones, like quests and things like this missing art here. You basically acquire that and go cash it in. I also have some new characters that are basically mercenaries for hire. This one here is in the outside town after you do successfully beat the invasion. I also have to make sure that when I do add these characters, that when you do sit them at the inn, they do show up appropriately, and you can also put them back in the team. I also added a whole bunch of new quests in the outside town here, just to have some more stuff to do. A lot of them do sequence between towns. Some of them you have to go and talk to another person in order to see the quest, and this one here you also have to go fetch a book about some shadow plague to help the miners. This little fella here, if you end up choosing wrong, he ends up showing up dead outside or alive based on your reaction. Some kill quests as well, just to spice things up. I always liked the simple kill quests. They're really easy to make, by the way. One of our other quests here. I think I discussed in one of my earlier devlogs, a little pig farm here that you got to go fetch all these pigs for. A really neat little kind of like a kill quest, but more of a find quest. This one was cool. Just basically going through all this stuff I've made before and playing it through, and basically I'm like the first initial beta tester here of some of these things to see if they work. And sure enough, they are working just fine as I expected. Let me tell you, it's been so long since I've made some of these quests that I often forget that I even did them. So it's really interesting to play your game when it's been so long. It was really fun. I suppose because I know all the secrets, but sometimes I don't remember them. It's just been that long, and then I'm like, oh my god, I made that? That's really cool. I moved a little bit onwards to some of the enemies in the zone. They really needed to be redone. It was designed in a different way where enemies just kind of stood there like totem poles, and it was kind of boring. Now I've got like this cool pathing system where I can have them walk around. But the problem is I used to just like drop these cubes and then assign them to a list to the enemy here. And it's kind of annoying to do because you have to position them properly all the time and dragging them around. So I designed this new thing in a Unity editor script where basically I can move the enemy and then push a button. So here I am trying to figure out how to code again because it's been so long since I've done anything in C# for the game. Lately, it's just been so much content. But anyways, managed to figure it out by looking at some of my old stuff. And here you go. I just basically push a button. It adds a little tiny object inside the same folder that it's contained in. Because you obviously don't want to parent it with the enemy itself. Otherwise, those points would just keep moving around with you. So they are inside the parent object. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. I just move it around, push a button, and keep on doing that. Oh my god, like this process, at first when I first designed it, I was like, oh, it'll be fine, just put some cubes in there, it's so easy. No, it was annoying. It really bugged me. It took so much time. Now I can just slap down enemies and just keep generating points. Now moving on from the enemies, I wanted to show you this map here. This is a really nice zone in EverQuest 2. You can see that there's lots of little pockets through this valley that kind of lead to special little areas in it. But a lot of it is broken up and you can't get through it. You can't climb these mountains. So I want to do a similar thing in all of my zones, and I've been doing this for quite a while. This zone that we're working on right now is actually a really old one, and back in the day I just kind of made things very square, and I'm trying to not do that anymore because it's really boring. It's kind of hard to figure out where you are because you're just running around in a giant football field. These little areas here that I'm kind of carving out in the zone are going to be like no-go zones. I basically build these tree walls and then I fill it in with like a dark plane so it looks like you just can't get into it. Theoretically, it's like a giant wall, but instead of having it be a mountain, I just do a tree line. It's a really nice way of making the world, which is a square right now, makes it feel like a bit of a puzzle or like a maze. And it also gives people scenery to know where the hell they are, because it's really hard to figure out where you are when you're running through a giant football field. So that is a really neat thing that I'm doing a lot lately. It does require that I go and chop my scenes up, but I love scene design. I can do this stuff all day. In this spot here, I decided to make it look like it's dying in this portion of the zone. So I added some dead trees and rocks and sticks and all that sort of stuff. Now I added these enemies to go along with it. They're basically just zombies. I also added a rare one in here just to see if you get lucky. You might get some better loot. But it all has to tie back to this quest board, which is basically just a bunch of piece of papers that you can hover over and get these cool little quests. Next thing I've been trying to do is add little signs that basically direct people where to go. It's just a little tiny thing that I've been trying to add, and just so people have a little bit more guidance. I've also been preparing a lot of new secrets. These ones here are like clickable secrets, so Sometimes you might click on a caravan, it'll give you a bunch of dialogue and some choices. But in these events, sometimes you just click on it and it gives you a reward and there's no dialogue needed. So in this case here, you click on the caravan and it's not supposed to disappear. I fixed that. But it gives you rewards right away and it's kind of quick and easy. So a lot of those have been added to the game lately too. As I continue to carve out all these little areas in the zone, decided to make this little goblin cave or goblin hideout. I'm going to add the basic stuff that you would see around a goblin camp: fires, spikes, walls, and flags, and all that sort of stuff. I'm also going to add a couple quests, a kill quest or two for this area, just so you can get some more experience and level your characters up this way. I was thinking of making a little bit of a reward inside that cave as well. Not too sure what it'll end up being, but I was thinking of making it smaller and maybe having a reward for like gnomes and dwarves to get, just because they can fit through small little areas like that. So that's some ideas I had in mind. Now, at some point, I decided I had to fix a problem that people kept bringing up to me, and that was they didn't really understand how to play the game and who was targeting who and that sort of stuff. So I got the idea to add this directional targeting system where this line appears when you've acquired targets. And Pillars of Eternity has done something quite similar to this, so I got the idea from there. And here I am trying to implement it myself. It was actually a lot easier than I thought, just using a line renderer and throwing a bit of a lerp on it so it kind of arcs. I wanted to go with this little arrowed version where it kind of shows the direction of what way you're going. I've seen other versions where it's like little dots. I even tried a thick line, but it turns out I like the arrows the best. I thought this is a really neat thing to add. I decided I'm going to encapsulate while the game is paused. I don't want all these lines to show up during live gameplay, so when people hit pause, they can see what's going on. Now, once I got that all sorted out, I decided to also add it to enemies so you can see where they're going as well. This is, for me, I found very helpful because a lot of times I don't know who's attacking who, so this really does solve the problem there. I added this giant in the zone as well, and he's kind of in this like secret oasis, and I thought it was kind of cool because most giants are like angry and they just want to stomp on you in this game, but this guy here is kind of like ran away from the clan, and no one's really bothering him until you showed up. So you kind of get the question out there if you want to be his friend or you want to be mean to him. So you have some options in there. Anyways, I wanted to make his little area look like a really undisturbed oasis, so I'm gonna add some little tiny ponds in here with little fireflies skitting over top of them. I'm just messing around with some water here because I do have a layer of water in the zone already, but it's like a lake, so I had to come up with a new swampy looking version. I've used it before in some of my other zones, and here I am just kind of like making sure that it works well in the lighting and all that stuff in this new zone. I also wanted to make this guy have a little house. Didn't want to spend too much time on it, so here I am just recycling some already made assets like benches out of stone and that sort of stuff. I didn't think it would be made of wood considering how big these giants are, so I went with this stone structure here, and I'm using a little blending so that it matches the terrain below it a little bit better as well. And I'm also going to add some little secrets to it here, so maybe you could find like some apples and ingredients and that sort of stuff on the table here. Now, close by to that little oasis, I added this pillar set here. Normally you just click on these things and you can start using them, but this one's broken, so I thought it'd be kind of cool if you asked the giant for help and maybe he can go fix it for you. So I thought situating that really close by to him, it is something you can ask him if you decide to be his friend. So a little thing in there for you, and I think I might even throw it if you're a half giant, maybe you can fix it yourself. We'll see. Now, a new thing I wanted to add was this little door here. I'm going to make it kind of like this secret passageway, but you need to find this switch somewhere else in the zone. I don't know. I suppose it's not a realistic thing in any way, but I see switches and secrets in this form all the time in RPG games, so I'm going to go ahead and make my own version of it. Here's the door. It's going to be basically like this locked secret door, and in order to open it, you got to go find the switch. And the switch is going to be, I don't know, somewhere. I'll put it across the zone, and I'm going to match it up with like a particular look to it so that you know which one you've found. I don't know, I kind of like the idea. It adds a nice new type of secret that I can use all over the place, so looking forward to using this a lot more. I had some new items that I added to my characters, and I noticed that I have a torch with no fire option on it. So that took me down this path of adding effects to weapons. I didn't actually have any on there outside of just like trying to do it with texturing. So I came up with this new idea. I spent some time on it. Now I've got fire on things like torches. And then I also went a little crazy and I decided, you know what, let's start making some freaking lightsabers. So I decided to make a flaming weapon, and I'm going to have a whole bunch more, I believe, that I'll start putting in there now that I've made a simple way of designing it. I'm not going to do it on like every item out there, but when I got something really fancy and I think it deserves it, I'll make one for it. When I was done with that, I moved on to this goblin mines, which needed a lot of love. So I thought it would be a good start to put a chest in here. I've been kind of resistant on using just like treasure chests. I kind of find them a little bit cheesy, but you know, I played a game the other day and they had a whole bunch of them and I didn't find it cheesy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try and do it myself. It's not rocket science or anything. I just kind of felt like it was weird. I don't know. Sometimes I tried to be a little too realistic, I think sometimes. In the end, it is a video game. Some more things I did in this zone here. I wanted to make a prisoner quest line. So I'm just fashioning together this kind of like little dungeon cage thing that I'm going to throw these NPCs in there. And well, it turns out I actually already had one. I'll make a variety of different NPCs that go in here so it doesn't just look like the same one every time. But the idea is you click on it kind of like the caravan thing in the chest and it just has a reaction to it. I'm going to attach a animation timeline to it, so when you do click it, NPCs run away as the door is opened when you click it. So moving on to some other stuff, I wanted to hide this one pathway here and make it a secret that you can basically open up the path by moving some of these rocks. It'll be a skill-based adventure that maybe it'll be like racial. If you're like a half giant, you can move the rocks because you're strong. Maybe strength based. But anyways, I like the idea there. I did have to cover it up with this black plane here, so I didn't want it to be a complete dead giveaway that you can see that there's something behind here. I wanted it to be for people that really are looking around. Anyways, I added an enemy in there. I was thinking this wraith would be cool because everywhere else has goblins. And obviously the goblins haven't figured out this path yet. So also going to throw some bats in there because they're just simple, easy little things to kill. But the wraith will be a more difficult encounter. Probably a little bit tougher than the goblins you see in here. Now, after all that was done, all I had to do was go back to the quest board here and add all these new quests to it. Now, I was done with all that zone. Now we're in Deer Woodlands, which is a very, very old zone. Probably my second design. Anyways, I went to town on the trees in this one, and it was also the same problem, a huge box. I did have some like rivers and a few cutouts here, but I really wanted to separate this zone into two different leveled areas. So one side of the woodlands here would be a little bit higher level, and I also don't want you to get to that until you've acquired the main quest line, which is basically the starting of your story, the plot line. So I kind of put you on a train and set you on a certain path, and once you achieve that, everything kind of opens up for you. So here I am just cleaning things up, working on all the different enemies in here. I had left out a lot of stuff. Like I think they only had one item on them, so I'm going to make a whole bunch of new ones for them. I love items. Making them is And it's so nostalgic for me, just trying to make all these cool items with procs and different stats and strange stats like negative charisma and like a whole bunch of armor factor. I go to town on all these items. Hopefully there's going to be some strange builds out there with all the items I've got in there, but it's a lot of fun. I love doing this. Now, I had to go through my game again and actually play it for a little while because I needed to make sure certain things were balanced. While I was doing that, I noticed that I had some issues here with some quests, so I fixed most of it all up. I do need to have all these quests active when I start designing in the next scene, because Dear Woodlands is the zone that follows this one, technically. So while I was doing that, I did notice I had a lot of issues with my crafting system. I have been slacking a little bit on it, so I spent some time fixing that up. Some recipes were broken, but everything looks good now. Now, earlier I mentioned we made some new clickable chests. I also want to incorporate lockpicking with them, so I did go into some more C# scripting here, and I designed an option where I can use lockpicking if I want, or I don't have to. And just implementing it here, I thought it was pretty cool because I like the stealth class in my game. I have put quite a bit of effort in stealth mechanics, but lockpicking is also something that's part of being a rogue. So it did take me a little bit of time to figure out exactly how I wanted it to roll, but I ended up making it where it is an option you don't have to use and you can use. So there could be some chests that have like no lockpicking required. So yeah, I got that all sorted out, and I think it's pretty cool. Another thing I really needed to work on was the map. The current map system that I had up on the demo really sucked. It basically was just a camera really far away from where your characters were, and it was bound to where your characters were, so it was centered on them. It really had no use other than just like I needed a map, so I made some crappy simple one. Anyways, I built a better version. It still is like a camera that's like zoomed really far out, but I gave controls to it so I can actually like move it around with my mouse or my arrows, so you can actually scope out the whole map. I also fixed a whole bunch of things on the exterior because it is really far out. It was able to see beyond the terrain, so I had to fix that stuff. I also decided to add in some icons, things like merchants and NPCs. I even have the capabilities for like quest markers, but after some careful consideration, I don't think I'm going to put quest markers in there. I just felt like it was a lot of scope creep for me. I also believe strongly in games that don't have too much guided help. And quest markers I just find make mindless players, so I'm going to go without it. However, I think I'm going to add quest markers on a couple key things. We'll see though. So far on the demo, I believe the first quest, I left it in there just to really help people along, but I might end up getting rid of it, but we'll see. One more thing I added were these little tiny buttons that you can hover your mouse over. They just have short little helpful descriptions in them. I've placed them wherever I think people have been struggling with, and it's a very short and sweet little description that is supposed to help you. Hopefully people find that useful. It is a small little tiny thing that's not in your way, so I don't see any harm in having it either. Two more things I finished in the Dear Woodlands was this little tiny vine-blocked pathway. And I also added this switch, which we made earlier in the devlog here. So I just made another version where you can find this one pattern, and then it leads you to this little tiny secret place in Dear Woodlands, which is actually filled with some ancient enemies. So I thought that was kind of cool. Something that you wouldn't be able to access until you acquire your main plot line. So another little secret area that I think I'm going to probably make this like a level 20 area or something like that. Now that concludes this devlog, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure if you're new around here that you subscribe and like to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. You know, everyone says that too, but it really does. I don't get a whole lot of traction on here, but the few people that are visiting my channel, you guys are awesome. I love having you around and watching my devlogs. huge motivation from all of you. I also noticed that there's been a few people talking about my game in some of these CRPG communities, which is really awesome to see. You know, I don't do enough marketing myself, and you know, some of these community members, I didn't ask them to do it, and I really love that they're popping my name in some of their videos and their forum posts. It's really awesome to see you guys do that. Feel free to keep doing it. Sometimes I see the wish lists come in, and you know, you get a day where you see like 30, 40, 50 wish lists. It's really awesome to see that. We are getting a lot more wish lists these days. I'll be transparent with you guys. I'm sitting around 3,000. I'm not releasing this game until I get at least 10, so we're getting there. I'm sure when this thing gets closer to being finished, I will start spending more time on it. You know, my main job is a marketer. It's ironic that I don't nearly put enough effort into the efforts for this game and the marketing, but you know, I gotta put all my eggs in one basket for now, and then I'll start thinking about marketing. But anybody out there who wants to share my work, feel free to do so. I really appreciate it. That's it for this devlog. You guys take her easy, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Cheers.